These are this afternoon's top stories. Honorable Mark Brantley meets with Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs. Brazil promises good investment environment for China, and reports indicate that repealing Obamacare would leave millions uninsured. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, the 14th of March 2017. I am Shaira Flanders. Nationally, the Honorable Mark Brantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs, met with His Excellency Bruno Rodriguez Parilla in the margins of the 22nd ACS Ministerial Council in Havana, Cuba. During their encounter, Minister Brantley offered expressions of condolence to Minister Rodriguez, the government and people of Cuba, on the passing of the Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro, who was a, quote, towering revolutionary figure and a global champion for the poor. Minister Brantley also expressed appreciation for the long-standing relations and cooperation that exist between our two countries. Other thematic issues addressed at the meeting included cooperation in the area of training and development of skills in priority sectors, expertise in renewable energy, expansion of the tourism industry, and sharing of technical experiences, increased cultural exchanges, and participation of Cuba in our independence activities. Minister Brantley headed the St. Kitts and Nevis delegation to the 5th CARICOM-Cuba ministerial meeting. Matters that were tabled included the regional integration within the framework of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, or CELAC, and the Association of Caribbean States, ACS, prospect for the development of cooperation and economic trade ties between the CARICOM and Cuba, and cooperation to confront climate change. Minister Brantley was accompanied by St. Kitts and Nevis' Charge d'Affaires to Cuba, Mrs. Verna Mills. St. Kitts and Nevis is joining the global community in observing World Glaucoma Week from March 12th to the 18th, 2017 under the theme BIG, or Beat Invisible Glaucoma. Minister of State with responsibility for health, Honorable Wendy Phipps, in an official address to mark the week, said the week was created 7 years ago as a means of increasing global awareness of this, quote, silent thief of sight. She outlined what glaucoma was and defined by the World Health Organization.
The World Health Organization, WHO, defines glaucoma as a group of eye diseases that cause progressive damage to the optic nerve, the main nerve responsible for vision in the body, which carries images to the brain. In a normal eye, the watery or aqueous fluid produced by the layer of cells behind the iris, which is the colored portion of the eye, passes through the hole in the middle of the iris, called the pupil, to leave the eye through a series of tiny drains. In glaucoma patients, this fluid does not pass properly through the drainage system, and as a result, the pressure in the eye increases and places stress on the optic nerve.
Minister Phipps encouraged citizens and residents to get frequent eye examinations to check for glaucoma.
Given the fact that glaucoma can occur gradually over time without being detected, it is important that persons police their health via regular or annual vision checks. It is important to note that in many instances, glaucoma symptoms only manifest when the disease is far advanced. Once vision is lost to glaucoma, it cannot be reversed.
She further gave the statistics on glaucoma cases in the Federation.
The number of registered cases of glaucoma is 1,334. The number of all clients accessing glaucoma care in 2016 is 221. Number of new cases of glaucoma, 132. Number of contacts with clients, which is persons with glaucoma, is 929. Number of suspected cases of glaucoma, 84. And number of surgical interventions for glaucoma, there are 2. And number of visits in 2016 of patients with glaucoma is 1,055.
Activities for the local observation of Glaucoma Week will include a glaucoma video and lecture presentation at the Eye Clinic at JNF General Hospital, a lecture discussion on living with glaucoma, a visit to the Cardin home, a glaucoma awareness walk, and a glaucoma awareness t-shirt day. As the third Saturday in the month of March is observed annually as Youth Day for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the Zion Seventh-day Adventist Church Sandy Point will commemorate the day with a youth seminar. The seminar will be held under the theme EYES or Eyes, Enhancing Youth Empowerment. Youth leader Gloria Mills, in an interview with ZIZ, said the Seventh-day Adventist Church worldwide makes provision for the education of the youth as an integral part of the church body. She spoke about the significance of eyes.
The eyes, as we see the acronym. Well, first of all, children and youth. Elders too, we remember much when what we read is set in a kind of pattern. And so what was put there to make up the acronym has to do with the development of the young people. Enhancing, that is part of their natural development. Bring it up. Youth, they are youth, and we are looking at their empowerment. And it's a part of their motivation as well.
Khalid Seaton of the Friends and Explorers Pathfinders Club outlined what can be expected at the seminar.
The youth will be encouraged to ask questions concerning how the church is operated and what they don't understand.
The Pathfinder also said the seminar will assist in youth development.
The seminar will help youth development by building self-esteem, make you more brave. It encourages you. It also helps you to know more about the church, and you can, in time, you can take it over and know what to do, and also help the other generations.
According to Ms. Mills, the church has extended an open invitation to the public to attend the Eyes seminar, which will take place at the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Downing Street in Sandy Point on March 18th from 9 a.m. Moving on to news on the regional scene, China sent clear signals during 2 sessions in Beijing about opening up and investing overseas against the backdrop of a difficult international environment. Brazilian government officials and experts say the country would welcome whatever investment China might have to offer them. CGTN's Yin Yu has the details on that story.
Promised to open up like never before. The good news came just in time for global commodity exporters like Brazil, as the world has been facing rising protectionism. China is one of Brazil's biggest trading partners, and its 6.7% growth last year and expectations for 6.5% expansion this year are reassuring.
At this moment, there are many themes to which the world is paying attention. But first, we need to realize that China is an important player in the world, and what China does affects the whole world in many dimensions. Global players can be responsible or irresponsible. China has always been a responsible global player. We, as the Brazilian Promotion Agency of Exportation and Investment, focus most on the economic topics, especially the measures that China would take to guarantee the growth rate promised in its 5-year plan.
Brazil's GDP contracted 3.6% last year, and that's considered one of Brazil's most miserable declines in history. The government and some experts say that the economy has hit bottom and will slowly recover, but local media still reports on the lack of infrastructure in agricultural areas and the importance of international investment.
Our railway industry isn't activated enough. For example, the commercial railways. China already has high-speed railways, and the whole public railway transport system has been updated. China has precious experience in this area, and we should have more cooperation in the sector.
China and Brazil have discussed the construction of the Transoceanic Railway, a 5,000-kilometer railway construction that would connect Brazil's major agricultural areas with the continent's principal ports, which as a result might boost the country's commodity exports, which is considered as one of the most fundamental segments of the country's economy. And last year, Brazil's Senate called for an acceleration of the construction, considering it as one of the primary priorities for the country.
More infrastructure projects could help to revive Brazil's economy by improving commodity exports and helping to attract foreign investment. Paraná is one of the most fastest developing states in Brazil, and its governor promises a warm welcome for Chinese investment.
China's investment ability in infrastructure is impressive. China's airports and ports and railways are all among the biggest in the world. We'd like to welcome China's investment with open arms and hope to receive part of China's global infrastructure investment.
音乐 CGTN São Paulo.
In Trinidad, the joint trade union movement is calling for the steel industry to restart. CNews' Ian Wason has the details on that story.
The Steelworkers Union were on Monday joined by the trade union movement, and whenever JTUM gets involved, they mean business. The unions are requesting that government meet with interested investors to restart the steel industry. The union had sourced the investors following the closure of ArcelorMittal in 2016.
That's all we are asking for this morning. All we were asking for in December is for the relevant government ministers to meet with those investors and to do the due diligence as a government, and of course, and to set the framework for the type of discussions that would allow for the investor to go forward and to purchase the plant.
Restarting the plant, he said, will bring in much needed foreign exchange. He added, in a meeting in December, the union was given a commitment going forward by two ministers representing the Prime Minister, and they had left the meeting confident.
Lo and behold, when as investors come into the country and express interest in purchasing the plant, to have the plant restarted to benefit the country, there's absolutely no interest coming from not just those ministers, but some 4 relevant line ministers.
He is calling on the Prime Minister to have dialogue with the steel workers with the aim of restarting the industry.
And we are preparing, not too long from now, to put tens of thousands of workers on the streets of Trinidad and Tobago.
It's been over a year since the closure of ArcelorMittal, and the steel workers are still waiting. Ian Wason, CNews.
Moving on to news on the international scene, 14 million U.S. citizens would be left without insurance next year if former President Barack Obama's signature healthcare policy is annulled, according to a report by the U.S. Congressional Budget Office. The report estimates that by 2026, 52 million people would be without coverage. Al Jazeera's James Bays reports from Washington, D.C.
President Trump at a White House meeting to discuss one of his biggest challenges, his promise to repeal Obamacare and introduce a new system. Only days ago, despite divisions in his own party, the president backed new proposed legislation.
And a lot of people in the Senate and a lot of people in the House are committed to repealing and replacing this disastrous law with a health care plan that lowers cost, expands choice, and ensures access for everyone.
Those are ambitious claims. Now, the proposed legislation and its effects have been examined by an official non-partisan body called the Congressional Budget Office. Their conclusions in this report will not make pleasant reading here at the White House. The report says that if the new legislation is passed by next year, some 14 million more Americans will be without health insurance than would otherwise be the case. As the years go on, the number rises. By 2020, 21 million more people would end up uninsured, and in 2026, 24 million. Democrats say the new report confirms what they've been arguing all along.
In terms of insurance coverage, it's immoral. In terms of giving money to the rich at the expense of working families, it is indecent and wrong.
But the man who would have the job of implementing the new legislation, Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price, says he doesn't believe the figures in the report.
We believe that our plan will cover more individuals at a lower cost and give them the choices that they want, for the coverage that they want for themselves and for their family, not that the government forces them to buy.
When the president travels around the country, health care is at the top of his agenda.
Obamacare, remember, it is a disaster.
He's planning trips to Kentucky and Tennessee in the next week to sell his new healthcare plan. His sales pitch just got a fair bit harder. James Bays, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Britain's parliament has passed legislation to start talks to leave the European Union. Prime Minister Theresa May is expected to trigger the negotiations by the end of the month. But the UK's survival could be at stake as Scotland called for another referendum on independence. Al Jazeera's Barnaby Phillips report from Westminster.
She'd warned reporters of an important announcement, and Nicola Sturgeon's call for another Scottish independence referendum is a dramatic turn in the Brexit story.
Good morning, everybody.
Now it's not only the United Kingdom's relationship with Europe at stake, but the very survival of the United Kingdom.
By taking the steps I have set out today, I am ensuring that Scotland's future will be decided not just by me, the Scottish Government or the SNP. It will be decided by the people of Scotland. It will be Scotland's choice.
Prime Minister Theresa May was in Scotland a few days ago making the case for unity. She has the power to prevent a referendum, but she may not think it politically wise to do so. But now she must fight on two fronts: Brexit negotiations with Brussels and a struggle with Scottish nationalists whose call for a referendum, she says, is opportunist.
It sets Scotland on a course for more uncertainty and division, creating huge uncertainty. So instead of playing politics with the future of our country, the Scottish Government should focus on delivering good government and public services for the people of Scotland. Politics is not a game.
Meanwhile, Parliament has been debating the Brexit legislation, the government seeking the legal authority to invoke Article 50 and begin this country's withdrawal from the European Union. A process which, all parties agree, will change Britain forever.
The government is about to embark on the most complex and challenging undertaking of any British government since the Second World War. The decision the government makes and the deals it strikes will have profound consequences upon almost every aspect of British life. It is therefore essential that government does not fail or take the country down the wrong path.
But it's the government that will determine that path.
The ayes to the right, 335. The noes to the left, 287. So the ayes have it.
Because both here in the Commons and in the upper chamber, the Lords, opposition amendments to the Brexit legislation were defeated. The result is that Theresa May can now start the process of Britain's withdrawal from the EU when she wants, with no preconditions. Outside Parliament, protests. Some at home remain sceptical about Brexit, and soon Theresa May will be hearing the points of view of 27 other EU countries. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, Westminster.
And now for the weather. Present weather is fair. Winds are moderate from the east to northeast at 15 miles per hour. Seas are moderate to locally rough with swells reaching up to 7 feet. An advisory is in place for small craft operators and sea bathers, mainly on the eastern and the northern sides of the islands. A surface high pressure will promote fair and stable weather conditions across the islands for the next few days. Tonight will be fair with a few light overnight showers possible. Sunset today will be at 6:21 p.m. and the sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:20 a.m. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.